The Mets manager is Terry Collins. Terry, you could see the smile on your face last night after the ball game, talking about Reyes and Beltran being back in the lineup, huh?
Well, it makes a huge difference, Mike. Obviously, we showed it last night. You know, the intensity of the club, the energy of the club just changed with when you write their names in the lineup.
Absolutely. You've run into a lot of good pitches lately, and to do it without Reyes or Beltran really made it a hardship. I mean, it's just it almost felt unfair a couple of times, especially against some of the pitches you saw.
Well, you know, especially, Mike, when you ask some guys to do stuff that they're not, comfortable doing, you put them in spots in the lineup where they don't feel comfortable, and you're asking them to pick up for a guy like Reyes or a guy like Beltran, and you're just going to struggle. You're asking them to fail, and which is what we saw.
Let me give you a guy that we haven't talked about much this year, at least you and I haven't. Pagan hasn't had that zip that he had last year. He's never hit that stride offensively that he had last year. He was at times their best offensive player at times last year. I mean, what's been missing this year with him?
Well, Mike, he came out of spring training and got right away. He was in a funk out of spring training, and we tried to figure it out. We certainly studied it. We couldn't get it going. Then he tore the rib up and went down. Came back and started to get it going. We had the series where we were on the road. We played in Texas and Detroit, and he was starting to swing it much better. And then when Jose got hurt and we asked him to go to the leadoff spot, he was not comfortable with it. Tried to change his game, tried to change his approach, and I think got himself right back into the funk he was in the beginning of the year. But we need him. We need him to be that, as we've talked about. He and I have talked about a lot. Just be the guy he was last year. Get on base. Don't worry about the power numbers. You're strong enough. Once in a while you get a ball to hit, but we need you on base. We need you to score runs, and hopefully we can get him back doing that shortly.
You can see the team respond to Reyes last night and respond to Beltran, who goes in there and gets on base 5 times. You can see teams pitching around Beltran. I mean, it's common sense. You would pitch around Beltran. He's a star. He's a slugger. He's slugging 9-10. I mean, you're going to pitch around him. There's no question, especially in your lineup. When you see and you think about, and you get asked every day, and I'll ask you about it again, it's unfair. I mean, you've gotten this team to overachieve all year, and now every day your guys get to the ballpark and they know there's a bunch of scouts there ready to take Beltran off your hands. I mean, that's got to make it tough for you.
Well, it's tough. I'm very lucky that DeCarlos himself is such a professional that he's been through this before, probably when he was in Kansas City, and even when he was in Houston, when he was facing free agents. He's been through this before, so it doesn't face him. It does face some of the guys around him, because there are a lot of players in that clubhouse that still think we can win. I'm not saying win the World Series, but think we have a chance to have a very good year, but know that if we lose him, it's going to be a huge hole to fill. And those are the guys that I spend a lot of time with on each day, trying to get them to understand that there's parts of the game we may not like, but we have to.
It's not really feel like if I say to Met fans right now, and there's some diehards who say, we're still in the race. All right, you're on the periphery at best of the race. You're 500. There's a wild card team, 18 games over 500 in your division, and they're a good team, the Braves.
Yep.
So you're on the periphery, and you know the hand you were dealt here. I mean but it still makes it tough for you to sell winning to this team every day. It's got to be a very hard chore for you to do that.
Mike, one of the things you got to sell are jobs. We've got a young team here for the most part. David Wright's safe. Obviously, there's some guys in this club that are safe, but there's a lot of guys right now are still fighting to be major league players. And so what you have to get them to understand is there's some accountability here. There's something the way you have to go about it, the adjustments you have to make if you're going to stay in the big leagues. And so here's
Good
their
point.
chance. And if they think that because Carlos Beltran's here, that we're not going to win. I don't have to play. I don't have to do the things that maybe I had to do it when we thought we were going to win. They're mistaken, because I'm going to find some guys that are willing to do that stuff. And I'm not saying we're going to win a championship, but we owe the people that pay their money, that walk in this ballpark every night, a product. And if that product plays the game correctly, we've done our job. Whether we win or lose, we've done our job if we play the game right. And that part of that is these young guys understand what it takes to play in the big leagues.
This might be unfair. I'll ask it anyway, and it might not be a complete answer yet. You're obviously hoping, and off your performance, you expect to be here the next couple of years as this team turns it around. And Alderson and DePodesta and JP they're gonna build this team the way they want to build it. They came here to build a team. We know that, okay? And they're gonna make a lot of changes. We know that. Are you convinced? Let me ask you about two guys. Are you convinced Murphy can be an everyday player in your lineup if you have a team that's competing for big things? Can Murphy be an everyday player for you, and if so, where?
Well, Mike, I think Dan Murphy is for me. He's the ideal. I don't want to call him a role player, but he's a real good piece of a puzzle. Can he be an everyday player in the right spot? Yes, because he's a consistent player. You don't see him. He just continues to go along. He gets big hits for you. He'll make a big play. He's never going to be a guy that's going to power a bunch of home runs or maybe be a big RBI guy, but he's a consistent player. And those kind of players you can win with if you surround him with better pieces. And that's what we're going to ultimately do. And if we need to put Dan Murphy in some position next year where we know we're going to get a solid year out of him, I think he can help you win.
How about Turner?
Well, I think Justin Turner, to be honest, has proved himself to be a major league player. I think he's going to be a great piece of the puzzle, possibly as a guy who can come in and spell you at any position. He can play any position in the infield.